we just wanted to address something that's happening at the minute. This past weekend, there's been a couple of clips going around from when we did a session on the Flagrant podcast while we were on our US tour. And
man, technology is something, man. Just trying to get a video out for the fans.
If this thing goes down in volume and you see me bring out my 9mm and shoot it, maybe that's the way we'll get fucking viral. Anyways, we got some interesting things to talk about. What we got here?
Yeah, so you hit me up earlier today talking about a podcast that I didn't hear about before all of the controversy, a UK-based duo named ShxtsnGigs. And of course, we are the Talking Shit podcast.
Yeah, man.
And, we're trying to find ways to replace the I so that it's socially acceptable to have a socially unacceptable name.
Facts. I mean, and it was just very interesting. Now, I'll say this. I have never heard of this show before the Flagrant 2 podcast episode and kind of the fallout from it. So I'm not as familiar with ShxtsnGigs. I'm just going to call them Chuckles. I'm not really familiar with Chuckles podcast. I don't know exactly their background, their catalog, their episodes. I'm not going to claim to say I'm an expert, but after the apology, man, it's I don't know. It's not looking so hot.
Yeah, so when I saw the clip of Andrew Schulz, and we know about Andrew Schulz and the whole bring back the flagrancy kind of movement where he believes that comedy should be exempt from cancel culture, and I completely agree with him. He had the Chuckles guys on his podcast and asked them some questions about how they interact with women. And when he got to the subject of black women, he was intentionally trying to be offensive for the purposes of comedy.
Yeah.
And there were some uncomfortable looks that looked to me, I'm no body language expert, but they looked uncomfortable in a way where somebody was saying something that they agreed with, but they knew they couldn't actually come out and say it. And so we had a firestorm that appeared, not because of something offensive that they said, but because of something offensive that someone else said that they did not say.
It's, to me, and this is the great thing about having a black co-host, right? Because, with these types of issues, if I talk about them alone, then I'm going to get some type of looks at me, some stares, like, like, what do you think of, like, black people? Like, I want to avoid that. So this is very good to have the half and half magic power hour. But to me, I think the weakest thing in all of this, because I did watch the whole episode through with the original episode on Andrew Schulz with Flagrant 2 with Andrew and Akash with the Chuckles podcast boys, and then I saw the apology. The biggest issue I have with it is that they apologized, and I think apologizing for something you didn't even say yourself is goofy, but then to like go on this apology due to the pressure you're getting, I think is just fucking weak. If you had an issue with what Schulz was saying during the podcast, or Akash thing, or either of them, right? Just address it on the pod fucking cast. That's really not that complicated. I mean, Shane Gillis, popular
the pod fucking cast.
Yeah, the pod fucking cast.
I couldn't let you slide with that one. Like, what is that? Did you forget how to podcast? Like, what happened?
Yeah, it's been a year.
For real, for both of us.
But Shane Gillis gets on the Andrew Schulz Flagrant 2, and when he had an issue, he just addressed it immediately, right? And that's how you handle it. Like, if you have a problem with what somebody's saying, just say it immediately. You don't even have to be disrespectful. Be like, hey, man, like, I'm not really feeling that type of conversation, and then kind of move on. But, like, the whole apology, like, it's down. It's like they just murdered somebody. It's like, come on. It's a little extra, in my opinion.
Well, now, if they... See... That would make sense if they actually had a problem with what Andrew said. Because I'm gonna say the quiet part out loud, right? You remember the infamous bitch slap where the bitch slapped the real man at the Oscars? Remember that? Man. Now, everybody kept talking about how, oh my God, Will was defending her honor. He laughed first. I will die on this hill, Cap.
He did. No, he did.
Will Smith thought the joke was funny. Then he looked at Jada. So it's a very similar situation here where the guys live in the UK. The guys have their experiences. They have their observations of what other black men go through in certain romantic or parasocial or social environments with our female counterparts. And the reason why they reacted the way they did is that they could not detect any lies. So obviously, Andrew being a provocateur, he kind of fed on this because he wanted to put them in a funny situation to basically get off the fence, because they don't really talk very much about love and relationships on that podcast as far as I could tell.
Oh, and I wonder why.
Right. And the thing is, one of the things that I always had a problem with is this notion that, because I've seen it from more than two people on social media have said similar things in the comment section. So it seems like a hive mind thing where there are people out here saying, oh, and by people, I mean black women, they should be the only black men allowed to have podcast equipment. They should be the only one that should be allowed to speak in public because they don't hold us accountable for anything. They just kowtow and keep their heads down, and they don't say anything that might ruffle our feathers and make us think that, you know what, we may have to change some of our behaviors to get the outcomes that we want. They don't hold us to any kind of standard, so they should be the only ones allowed to speak.
So with the Chuckles podcast, I have a genuine question here. I haven't gone into their back catalog much. I mean, really, the only familiarization I have with their content is with this whole controversy, quote unquote. What exactly are they about? Are they just kind of just a regular podcast talking about everything? And do they talk about relations? Yeah, okay. So I mean,
so they don't talk about relationship stuff. They avoid it.
I'll say that in their defense.
From what I've heard.
If that's the case, and if we're wrong, just flame us in the comment section.
Of course.
But if that's the case,
anyway.
True. I don't really care if they don't go into relationships and talk about the negatives and all that, because if that's not their fucking space, that's fine. Right. I mean, I just have more of an issue, like, you're going to make an apology looking like a bunch of bitches instead of just addressing it right to the dude's face instead. And it's just weak. It's an all-time bitch move. If you have a problem with a motherfucker, just say it in the goddamn moment. I don't think that's really that fucking complicated, in my opinion. It's just, you have an issue with what they're saying, address it in the moment. Don't be like, oh, like a month or two later, like, oh my God, like I just couldn't. Like, they were talking about like all these offensive things. I'm like, come on, man. You went on to the Flagrant 2 podcast. The Flagrant 2, by the way, the name of the fucking podcast. And you didn't think they were going to get a little crazy? Didn't think they were going to say some shit off the cuff? Have you not even seen an Andrew Schulz, like, short clip? Like, this is what he does. Whether you hate it, love it, whatever you think about his comedy, you should know what Andrew Schulz is about before getting on his fucking show. Right?
And here's another thing, too. And I want to make it clear, I'm not talking about all black women. I'm talking about the type of black woman that would level this type of pressure on a couple of guys that didn't say anything. Yeah. I'm going to draw a parallel to professional baseball here in the United States of America. We have Major League Baseball here.
We do?
Major League Baseball changed several crucial rules to the game that is meant to draw in more fans. But the issue is, as they try to speed up the game, they have done things that have taken the soul away from the game. That conversation between the pitcher and the catcher, the tension between the base runner and the pitcher, the tension between the pitcher and the hitter. Oh, we got a shot clock for you. Yeah. Oh, and you can't throw over to first base more than twice. Otherwise, the runner gets a free move to second base. And, we're also going to make the bases bigger. We're going to change all of these rules to try to draw in more fans. And the only thing that it does is dilute the game. Now we have the Shohei Ohtani, which we both agree he bet on baseball. Do we both agree on that?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So he's the Major League Baseball darling. Oh my God, he's got 50 home runs and 50 stolen bases. Everybody can steal bases now. They changed the rules. The stolen bases don't mean anything anymore. So you did all of this to dilute the game for a bunch of people the people who don't like baseball will never like baseball. That's just the way it is. So these Chuckles guys, as you call them, with ShxtsnGigs, you are trying to kowtow to an audience who weren't really your fans to begin with. Like Kat, think about all the people that you and I have supported over the years in content creation. Yeah. Did you stop supporting them for the first thing that they did or said that you didn't agree with?
No. I mean, if I have a disagreement with somebody, it's a disagreement. The only time I really just break off relationships with anybody is if I feel like they've crossed the line.
And where's the line, Cap? I think that's really the question here. Where is the line? Because you know how much... Well, the thing is, you know how much I dislike Kyrie Irving. Yeah. But what the New Jersey Nets did to Kyrie Irving from not saying something they wanted him to say, I thought was absolutely disgusting. And I've always hated the organization to begin with, since they illegally forced their way into my city. Yeah. From New Jersey, where they belong, back to New Jersey. Right?
Back to the
now we're fining and suspending people because they didn't say the words that you wanted them to say. That's crazy.
It is absolutely crazy. It's just, my thing is this, is you kind of reap with what you sow. When you kind of try to placate to a certain audience, know what podcast you're going on to. Like, if you're the safe podcast and you don't want to deal with any repercussions or possible backlash, you shouldn't go on the Flagrant 2. And that doesn't
don't go on Joe Rogan.
Don't go on Joe Rogan. Like, if you don't like if you don't want to deal with controversy, don't make these appearances. I guess that's kind of my biggest thing. Like, they have a successful podcast. They have millions of subscribers, and I understand that. But it's just, again, apologizing not only for not saying, like, for something you didn't say, but apologizing just overall for an appearance, I just think is downright pathetic. Now, mind you, if they went on the Flagrant 2 podcast, like, yeah, man, I take women in the back of my trailer and just fucking blow their heads off. Like, then that's a completely different conversation. But it's a joke. It's a joke they made. It's a joke they didn't even make their apologizing point.
That's crazy.
It's an all-time bitch move, and the Chuckles podcast is now rated 0 out of 10 on the Captain Paul podcast list. They're clearly in the F tier. Clearly in the F tier.
I have to agree, because my very first inclination after I saw the apology was, I didn't know who you were before. I'm sure as fuck not watching now, because now we know that your opinions are governed by other people. They're not even your own. You know what? You guys should just get out of the chair, replace yourselves with black women. Just grab any two random black women that get offended at every single little thing that everybody says. Just sit them there and just check out. The podcast game ain't for you if you're going to apologize for the words other people are saying. Yeah. Now, I didn't know who you were before. I sure as fuck don't care who you are now.
Yeah, I was so petty with it that, like, I subscribed to their channel just to unsubscribe.
And on that note, down in the comment section below, the question I have for you is, have you ever disagreed with a platform that you're a fan of? And how do you react to it? And why is that platform the Talking Shit Podcast?
And listen, like, we here at the TSP podcast, if you want to support a black-run business, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like and comment, and check out that Patreon, because with one little dollar donation, you can ensure another black man becomes a millionaire. So we're the TSP podcast.
We'll see y'all on the next one.